What's going on, gang? This is Generation of BMX. I got a session in on my bike today and I did some work on the front of the house. I got that window done up there at the top left hand corner. I have time to go on a little adventure today that I'm going to take you guys on, and I'm going to tell you a little story on the way. My sons are getting into metal detecting and arrowhead hunting, and they went out into a field and they found an arrowhead. I could not believe it. They came running to me. I was sitting out in the field in a chair, checking out my some stuff on my iPad, my email, just checking in on the sports highlights, scores and whatever. And they come running, sprinting across the field. My son told me to hold out my hand. They surely did find a real arrowhead. Actually, some of my friends told me it was a spearhead. But anyway, I'm going to take you out to the field where we found it. I'm going to show it to you where it was at, and I'm going to tell you a real Indian story on the way. I'll also tell you a brief history on this house that we live in. We live in an 1881 Victorian house. We live in Hamilton, Ohio. That is a Sears Roebuck barn. That's a new pole barn over there. This is a garage. It was here as far back as 1959, according to the satellite images that I looked. I don't know how far back it dates to the property. But anyway, he had this house with over 300 acres that he farmed from 1881 all the way up until I think 1921 when he died. So let's go out into this field. This whole house is surrounded by all rolling farmland. If you get up on the roof and look around, turn a 360-degree circle all around, you will see nothing but rolling farmland, for the exception of a couple of houses across the street. So let's go check out this arrowhead. All right, so we crossed the fence. My house is over here. This is an energy company's towers. They own some of this property. But as we go here, we're going to enter the farmland, and we'll be on the family that built this house in 1881. This farmland here was part of their property. The relatives of today own it still. It's for sale. But yeah, they still own it from what I heard, and they live a couple doors down from us. I thought about going over there and talking to them to see if I can dig up some old family photos. I might get some old photos of the house. But anyway, we're entering the cornfield here. And let me tell you guys what's going on. 7 Mile is a community down that way. On down the road there, if you go about 1 mile down that road, you will come to a community named 7 Mile. Now, this Indian story that I dug up on the internet said that it happened in a community within the area of 7 Mile and Oxford. Oxford is straight ahead that way. So you got 7 Mile there, you got Oxford there. The story takes place in the area around 7 Mile. So that could be here on this land that we are now walking on. We're not sure, but anyway, the Indians involved in this story I'm going to tell you lived all around here. From what I hear, they were called the Mound Builders, and that's in Butler County, Ohio, which is where we live. We live in Hamilton, but it's Butler County. And the Adena Indians go back as far as the times before Christ. They were known to be in this area also. There's all kinds of burial mounds that are in Miamisburg, which I think is somewhere that way. There's Indian mounds in Miamisburg. I heard there's an Indian mound here somewhere between where we are now and about 4 or 5 miles down that way. There's supposed to be a burial mound somewhere in this vicinity. Okay, so anyway, the story I'm going to tell you takes place back in 1800, and I dug this story up on the internet if anybody is interested, or I may even put the address of the website that I found so you guys can read it for yourselves. Anyway, there was a story about a family The white people had just started to come in and settle this area here. When they got here, there was many families of Indians here. The white people came in and they settled around here on these farms. There was one particular family that had a little girl. She was 3 years old. She had 2 sisters, and her name was Elizabeth. Okay, she's the main individual of the story. There was a Indian family that had become friends with them, with the white family, and they would come over all the time asking for sugar and for salt and for meat and all kinds of other household goods, and they all became friends, and they would come over all the time and hang out with this white family. Well, one of the women of the tribe became pretty fond of this little 3-year-old girl, and every time the Indians would come over to that white family's house, that little girl would get up on the lap of that Indian lady, and they would you know, joke around with each other, and the girl would just laugh, and they became really close. So anyway, the 3 siblings went out, I heard, into the hills, into the farmland around them. They were supposed to bring the cattle back into the house. Okay? Part of their chores, I take it. But they went out there to bring the cattle in. The little 3-year-old Elizabeth was screaming for them to stop. We just entered, this is the field, right, Ezra?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll follow you. We're gonna follow Ezra, my son here, to where they found the arrowhead. Okay, so the little girl, Elizabeth, was yelling for them to stop. So the sisters turned around and they ran back to the little girl. By the time they got to where the little girl was, she was gone. Nowhere to be found. They looked in a tree next to where she was at, and they saw that an Indian battle axe or something was stuck into a tree where some Indians had been there. They probably wedged that into the tree to pick up that little girl. There was some footprints found there, but they couldn't find her sister. They ran back to the house and they told their parents what had happened. There was a panic. They all got their stuff together. They got some of the people in the community, and they went running after to try to find their little girl. They went to the spot where she was abducted, and as I'd mentioned, they found footprints where the Indians had been. The axe was stuck in the tree, and the little girl Elizabeth was long gone. They went back and they got more people of a search party, and they followed the footprints as far as they could. I think they said for 10 miles. And long story short, they never found the little girl. She was gone. So from what I read in the article, they did an extensive search. The father and mother went looking some more. They never found the little girl, and she was pretty much written off as being gone. Not too long after the father went on the extensive hunt for her, he came back and he died. It didn't say. He could have died from just his grief, misery, or combination of the exhaustion. Back in those days, all they had to get around was horse, and it was a chore to travel long distances back then. And the father died. The mother went on to die about 18 years later. Right here is a runoff where the water runs through these fields, and this is a perfect place for hunting for arrowheads. And these rocks here, which is where they found one. Where's it at? Where'd you find it at? Okay, we're gonna keep going to where they found the arrowhead, but they found it in a spot like this. But anyway, the story gets better about this little girl. A friend of the family in 1842, about 40 years later, said that on his travels west of the Mississippi, on his way out west, I want to remind you that we're in Ohio. This story took place in Ohio, quite possibly on these lands that we're on right now, because we're in around the area of 7 Mile and Oxford. Highly unlikely, but you never know. But anyway, this friend of the family said about 40 years later, when he was on his travels out west, he was west of the Mississippi, and he said that he saw Elizabeth and that she had married an Indian warrior, and they had 2 kids. And he knows that it was her because she had the all the resemblances of her family. So the little girl got abducted and she was forced to live an Indian life. She probably never remembered her parents because she was 3 years old when she was taken. She married this Indian and had two children. And that was 1842 that he said he saw her. But anyway, that's a crazy story, man. That's sad. I can't imagine, you know, that'd be like somebody kidnapping one of our kids today and never seeing them again and only hearing later, not the family, but from other people that she had been found and was living another life. Okay, we're approaching the area. Let's start picking up the pace. Take me over here to where you found this arrowhead. Anyway, this is Ezra, and my other son is 6 years old, and he's the one that found this arrowhead. I was sitting in a chair way back there, just letting them play in this field. They walked all the way over here and found this arrowhead. Come on, man, let's speed it up. Let's go find this place. All right, show me where you found it. Right in here? Mm-hmm. So here's the runoff where the water, we've had some heavy rains. This is where the water runs off, and it's a perfect place for washing away the soil and unearthing some of these relics. Show us the arrowhead. Spearhead, actually. This is it, guys. I'll put this down on the ground and show you what it looked like when they found it. Just like that.
It was like more in the ground.
Yeah, it was in the ground more. Out here in this field is probably where all the Indians were doing their hunting.
It was like that.
He said it looked like that in the dirt. Let's get down there and take a look at that. So here it is, guys. I thought we were calling it an arrowhead, and I put it on my Facebook page and showed the picture to some friends, and they said it's too big to be an arrowhead, that's probably a spearhead.
And then we found this right down
and here is a fossil that we found. It looks like a tooth, but I heard it was an amphibious creature. That's quite common.
I actually found another one.
We found two of them, actually. But yeah, right here. Now this could date back as far as the Adena tribe that was known for this area, or it could be, you know, a late 1800s, early 1800s, late 1700s arrowhead. Somebody who's an expert in the field would be able to tell us. But that's it. I hope you enjoy the story. Ezra found this also. We don't know what this could be. It's not flint.
It's just our grandma told us it was a stone war club.
Yeah, maybe.
It looks like one.
Maybe, maybe not. Well, thanks for checking in for our story here and checking out the arrowhead and listening to the